Welcome to this week's video where we are going to be talking about product backlogs. As you know, my name is Esther Lessing and I'm from Business Analyst Excellence. I'm a trainer, I'm a mentor, and I am also a practitioner. So let's jump straight into the topic of product backlogs so that you can learn about what your role as a business analyst is within an Agile project where a product backlog is being used. So grab your notebook, as always, get comfortable, and let's dive in. So if we look at the definition, a product backlog is like a to-do list for a project. It is a list of all the tasks, features, or improvements that need to be done to complete the project, ordered by priority. So the product backlog is the business analyst guide for what to work on next, as well as for the rest of the team. But it also helps the team to stay focused and organized throughout the project. So what's included in the product backlog? User stories, as you would expect, tasks, use cases even, change requests, defects, risk items, non-functional requirements, and any to-do item that includes people in the project team and that needs to be done before the project is complete. So it's really a list of everything that you as a project team know that you have to work on at some stage in the project. So if we look at this Kanban board, it's a very basic Kanban board, but it will explain the concept of the product backlog, which is the point of this discussion. So typically in an Agile project, you would have potentially seen that there are different stages that they run iterations through. And the first stage is often called the product backlog. And that is essentially all the planned work, user stories, tasks, risk items, everything that we've just discussed. That gets basically put on the product backlogs as tickets, or if it's a manual product backlog that is shared in a room somewhere, it's often done by post-it notes. So you can do it like in this template on my row and make it look like post-it notes and move them through the stages. But essentially your product backlog will be filled with all these different types of tasks, user stories, etc. A good tip is to try and color code the different types of work that is required on the backlog, because it just helps people to quickly see what something is about. Alternatively, use a particular code to indicate when something is a user story, so give it a unique ID that also could potentially be slightly different for a task or an idea or whatever it might be. So just have upfront a bit of a brainstorm to think, how do I want to classify the different items that I add to my product backlog? And as you can see, this little man is climbing up to the top, because typically on a product backlog, you would have the most important items or the items that are going to be worked on next and is seen as the next priority would be pushed to the top of the backlog. So you might be able to see as a team, you can kind of shove everything up to the top that is going to be worked on next, or that is important for the team to address during their next iteration planning session. So that just gives you a rough idea of the importance. So that's what the product backlog essentially is. It's not complicated. It is something that is very important to keep clean and tidy. So as a business analyst, it's often a great idea for you to keep an eye on what's actually happening on the backlog. Make sure that all the items do eventually get moved. If you're perhaps in charge of, like if you're playing the role of the Scrum Master sometimes, or the delivery manager, whatever your role is on the team, you might play more than one role. Keep an eye on the product backlog and make sure that the team keeps an eye on keeping this clean so that you don't have items that sits there forever, or that you don't have items on there that you don't really ever intend to do. So do a bit of a revision of the backlog every so often. So in a nutshell, that is the product backlog. So let's recap. When will you actually use the product backlog? So Agile projects, when planning and managing work items that's coming up for a project, it is the backlog of work items that is planned for during iteration planning. And this is a ritual that's happening with every Agile iteration. There will be an iteration planning session happening in the iteration before for the next iteration. And as we said, the top items of the backlog is typically of higher importance and might be considered for the next iteration.
Well done. You've made it all the way through this lesson. That's really good, and I hope you've learned something new about product backlogs. If you enjoyed this lesson and if you learned something new, please click on the like or even subscribe if you'd like to learn more in future. See you soon.